This project will make Canada stronger.
Good morning from the Premier's Stampede breakfast here in Calgary, where politicians, cabinet ministers, MPs, premiers and delegates are gathering under one roof. But this year, the political conversation isn't just about pancakes and cowboy hats. It comes days after Alberta and Ottawa announced a new West Coast pipeline deal where supporters are calling for a win for Alberta, but a lot of critics are asking a different question.
The affordability of your life is going to deteriorate going forward, and that's because Ottawa's in control, Ottawa's ideologues, that's how they make their decisions, and an independent Alberta can change that.
I never thought that I'd be talking to you about a pipeline in my lifetime with a Liberal government.
And I can also tell you that she believes in Alberta, she believes in Canada, and I'm very excited about her leadership and her leadership going forward.
Why do you think that it remains too risky for the private sector to run with it by itself?
I would say that we did have a number of projects, and I can elaborate on them. I mean, we did have Northern Gateway that had all of its approvals, and they were then canceled. We did have Keystone XL, who had all of its approvals and were starting to build pipelines across the border, and a presidential permit was canceled. We had Energy East that was $1 billion into a regulatory approval process and couldn't see the way to a finish line, so it was canceled. So we have pipeline companies that have literally spent billions of dollars in recent years on failed regulatory approval processes. That's the environment we're finding ourselves in.
Why does the government have to step in and build pipelines that private industry used to build on its own?
We've launched and will honor our duty to consult with Indigenous communities. This new route will also provide Government of Manitoba and the Manitoba Crown Indigenous Corporation with the opportunity to explore the feasibility of a pipeline extension to the Port of Churchill. The Northern Shield Energy Corridor is a critical next step in building a more united, more prosperous, and more resilient Canada.
By connecting Alberta's energy with Canadian refineries and European markets, we can create jobs, grow our economy, and make the most out of the world-class resources that we've been blessed with. Now that a potential route has been identified, the Government of Ontario is commencing work to estimate costs and examine commercial models and related development opportunities for the energy corridor. This pipeline is another signal to investors that Canada is once again open for business and the best country on earth from which to secure a reliable source of energy.
I'm here asking Alberta's political leaders whether this deal is a real victory for the province or just another taxpayer-backed fix, a problem the government helped to create in the first place. I also put the question directly to Premier Danielle Smith.
This is one of Canada's most dynamic and economically productive provinces, and we are building on that momentum every day.
Premier Smith, the South Bow pipeline to the U.S. is fully subscribed. It has signed contracts with so many oil producers. It will be full for the next 20 years. The Carney Pipeline project has no customers signed up. Isn't it obvious that no one in the industry actually believes this is going to be built? Certainly not enough to put their own money into it.
Well, thanks for the nice neutral question. I would say it's a bit premature to make that point. I think that what we've done with our West Coast pipeline is announced an intention for the federal and provincial government to work together. We've got a private proponent. We have to make sure that we can get all of the Indigenous consultation and ownership stake, make sure that we do the environmental approvals. And I have absolute confidence with the conversations that we've been having with the Pathways Group that we will get those commitments. Remember, you can start a pipeline with a smaller amount going through it, and then you can do compression, just like we're seeing with the Trans Mountain pipeline. They began with a little bit of a smaller volume, but they're also increasing now up to 300,000 barrels. I think it's our job to make sure that we can expand the industry by 2 million barrels. So not only can we fill the South Bow line, we can still fill the West Coast line, we can fill our new northern, what are we calling yours? Northern Shield, our new Northern Shield pipeline, and also be able to serve north, south, east, west. I mean, this is the whole point of what we were trying to do in building out economic corridors. So I think it's a great project.
What are your thoughts on that? How can we bring in more private investment into Alberta?
Well, I think what you saw with the pipeline announcement is that Premier Smith has been able to reduce some of the very bad regulations that the federal government continue to push. That's why you see a private proponent getting involved in an investment in a West Coast pipeline. And so while there are still some challenges with the federal government and the regulatory side, I think we as Albertans and Canadians need to celebrate that we've been able to reverse a tremendous amount of Justin Trudeau's bad policies, which has resulted in a West Coast pipeline in our lifetime being possible and potentially shovels in the ground next in October 2027. That's an extraordinary accomplishment. So we can always do better, but we need to continue to push the federal government so that we can accomplish the things that we see that are taking place right now in Alberta.
Well, look, first of all, I want to say how excited I am about the pipeline deal. I know there's a lot of frustrated people that are out there right now with the federal government, especially under a Trudeau-Singh government. But I can tell you that what Premier Smith has done in working with this federal government, I see that there's a lot of hope and optimism, and I'm very excited at the way Alberta's going and the way Canada's going right now.
What would you say to those folks who are feeling discouraged about that the government had to step in?
They should get more informed and see where we're going. We're going great guns. We're going to build some pipelines.
I think anytime we have the conversation about pipelines, it's a great opportunity. We've been looking for a pipeline. We've been talking about it for years. Alberta's wanted it. Ottawa's been pushing back. At least we have somebody now that's at least having the discussion, and we want to have that discussion. We want to get the pipeline built.
You have to remember a few years ago, we were talking about projects in all direction. We're talking about Northern Gateway, Keystone, and Energy East. And for various reasons for each of them, because of regulatory uncertainty or because of permits being canceled, they ended up all stalling. So this is resurrecting all three of those concepts, perhaps on different corridors with some different partners. But I feel like the industry was there 10 years ago. They can be there again.
We heard a new pipeline proposal here, and we obviously know the one that was announced recently as well. Are these enough to stop the independence movement from pushing as hard as they are right now?
No, because they're shiny objects. And let's be really honest about what's happening here. First of all, with the announcement last week, the condition upon which the pipeline will ever get built is that the Alberta government had to agree to fund through federal taxpayer money and provincial taxpayer money the $24 billion Pathways carbon capture project. Had to agree through the MOU to increase carbon taxes, methane rules, and other net zero requirements.
And speaking of oil royalties, Alberta's government is also finalizing another agreement with the federal government and the Oil Sands Alliance to significantly expand oil sands production and advance Pathways, the world's largest carbon capture and storage project. Doubling oil sands production is a big task. Doing so in the most environmentally responsible manner is an even bigger task. But this agreement will allow us to achieve both.
The combined effect of that alone is to increase the cost of Alberta oil by $18 a barrel. That's more than the differential that we were trying to solve going into the U.S. This new increased cost of production is going to apply to all of our production here in Alberta, existing and future, not just a marginal increase in production that was going to go to Asia at a premium. So this is a terrible business decision. This makes no sense. This is a distraction.
And although it's more than a century old and it honors the rangeland heritage that stretches back to our province's beginning, this tradition that celebrates are alive and well in Alberta today, and they are shared by newcomers and all-hats alike. During Stampede, it's easy for all of us to feel a little bit cowboy, and that is how we like it.
If there was one policy that you could remove, what would that be to help with that private investment?
Well, I think at the end of the day, we still need to make sure that all of our regulations are matching the United States, particularly underneath the Trump administration that continues to see the largest deregulation in the history of North America for sure, if not the world. We obviously need to continue to protect the environment and our communities that we love, but recognize that we compete in a global market, and us trying to make a regulatory regime in Canada that does not match that creates challenges. But those challenges are being overcome by the Alberta government right now, and again, I think Premier Smith deserves a tremendous amount of credit on how much she's been able to reduce them already.
What has changed? What didn't work then? How is it going to work now?
Well, I mean, it's really about relationships, and I've had an opportunity to have some very positive, constructive conversations with my counterparts. I know the Premier has as well. I know many of my other colleagues, Minister Jean as an example, Minister Sani. And so, again, it goes back to optimism. I mean, I know there's some people out there that they're going to want to see those shovels in the ground. I might be one of them. but I can tell you that the conversations I've had, I'm very optimistic that's going to happen.
Again, anytime we're talking about pipelines, anytime we're pushing pipelines through, that's a good thing for Alberta. It's a good thing for Canada. This is a win-win for everybody. We need to follow through. We need to make sure it happens. But when it comes to pipelines, we've been wanting them for years. And previously, we haven't even been able to have the discussion. Now we're having discussion, so we're farther ahead than we've ever been. And we just want to make sure we follow through and make sure it gets done.
Premier Ford, you said back in May that Premier Smith was putting an independence question on the ballot to protect her 30% base. Have you two spoken about the referendum?
Let me talk about that. I think the world of Premier Smith, first of all, and we're focused on a pipeline. I know, well, let me cut to the chase here. The previous federal government, not this one, the previous federal government treated Alberta like garbage. Like terrible. I've never seen anything as bad as that. So I know that Premier Smith wants a proud, sovereign Alberta, part of Canada. And again, we're there to support her. It's Team Canada. I'll do anything we can. But thank you for that question.
And the other aspect of it is the pipeline itself is estimated to cost $40 billion. So we've got $40 billion for the pipeline coming from the taxpayer. $24 billion for the pathways construction and all of that coming from the taxpayer. This is going to be around $70 billion at least. To put that in perspective, that's the same budget as the entire government of Alberta. This is a huge amount of money. And guess who's paying that? You. And it's going to be my kids, my grandkids, and my great-grandkids. And all this is going to do is going to increase inflation. It's not going to address the affordability crisis. It's not going to make it so that when young people and seniors and others go to the grocery store, that groceries are going to be less expensive. It's going to do the opposite. So I think the politicians who are cheerleading this are disconnected from the reality of Albertans and Canadians. I think in time, Albertans will see it as shiny object, and I do not believe that it will discourage the enthusiasm for independence. It just makes it more clear why we need to do these things. Remember, the reason why we're having all these burdens now placed on the taxpayer is because of the ideological policies coming out of Ottawa from first the Trudeau Liberals and now the Carney Liberals. The oil industry has been clear. There is no market. There is no carbon market. There is no buyer that will pay a premium for decarbonized oil. So we're in an artificial exercise, but a very costly one that is going to further increase debt deficits, inflation, affordability problems, and is probably not going to result in a significant increase in production because it adds $18 to the cost of producing a barrel of oil.
And for those who are struggling to see the positivity behind this pipeline deal, what would you say to them to make them believe that this was the right choice?
Well, look, I've done this job a long time. I've been around the table throughout the entire Trudeau era. I never thought that I'd be talking to you about a pipeline in my lifetime with a Liberal government. And we are on the verge of potentially building a 1 million barrel a day West Coast pipeline to the Pacific Ocean that will change our province for generations. And for us to be able to even get that far is an extraordinary accomplishment. So we should celebrate it. We should accept that we're able to get it done, and then we should start asking for more. Alberta should never rest until we get the best deal possible. And that's what Premier Smith continues to do, and she's delivering real results.
Well, I mean, I'll just say what Premier Smith has been saying. We want to show that Canada works. We want to know that Canada can be successful, and this is just an example of that. And we're gonna make this happen. The shovels are going to be in the ground, and I'm very excited about the opportunities ahead.
I mean, we look at all the bad bills with Ottawa. We've been working on them and trying to get them changed. We got more work to do there. Again, we got to keep pushing. We got to keep pushing with Ottawa, making sure these things happen. But we have a lot of environmental regulations that don't make sense. We want to protect the environment, but we want to make sure it makes sense in the end. So, but yeah, to try to pick one would be really tough.
All Canadians deserve a stable, secure, and reliable energy supply. Alberta is ready to provide that stability and be the heart of a more energy sovereign and economically resilient Canada. And that vision is already taking shape as we work to make up for a lost decade of anti-energy policies from the previous federal administration in Ottawa. After signing an agreement last year to work together with Alberta and Saskatchewan to build new pipelines through an economic corridor from Alberta to Ontario, the government of Ontario is here today to unveil a potential route for a new 3,300-kilometre oil pipeline from Hardisty, Alberta to Sarnia, Ontario.
She seems confident that it'll still proceed. Are you confident?
No, I'm not. And all they announced today for the east-west one is a feasibility study. So that's, in other words, how do we get around a lake? Do we go underneath it or around it? How do we get over? How do we get through the Canadian Shield in northern Ontario? And that's the reason why the pipelines all go south into the United States, because the challenges of the Northern Shield or the Canadian Shield. So this is really an exaggerated event, a hyped-up event. It's not going to result in any near-term solutions to our economy. And again, it's Ottawa controlling Alberta, Ottawa controlling our economy. And with respect to the proposed West Coast pipeline, that is going to run into so many hurdles. They're going to have to build a tank farm, a big storage tank farm right on the coast in Vancouver. How's that going to go over? They're talking about Roberts Bank, which is also through a First Nations reserve right there. This is going to be, we're so far from it. But the base problem is still the ideologues in Ottawa are controlling the lives of Albertans, affecting our economy, and affecting the future for our children and grandchildren. And none of these announcements change that. They illuminate that problem, that Ottawa's still in control. There's a democratic deficit. Alberta has outgrown Canada. Canada does not work for Alberta, and it's time for a new relationship.
How has Danielle Smith done thus far? What's your opinion?
Oh, I think Danielle Smith has been fantastic. I mean, I've had an opportunity to know her for many, many, many years. I can tell you she's deeply committed to Alberta. She's deeply committed to the prosperity of the people of Alberta. And I can also tell you that she believes in Alberta, she believes in Canada, and I'm very excited about her leadership and her leadership going forward.
I think she's doing great. I mean, again, she's been able to bring a lot of people on side when it comes to some of the things we want to get done as a province. She's a great advocate. She's got other premiers on side, and that's all we can ask for.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Known as the Northern Shield Energy Corridor, this project would pave the way for Alberta's barrier-free access to domestic refineries and markets in eastern Canada. A new east-west pipeline would move an additional 500,000 barrels of Alberta oil per day, with the potential for a future expansion of up to 800,000 barrels per day. Energy security is essential for all countries, as we all know, and this new corridor will include the concept of a strategic petroleum reserve, or SPR, that will store vital Alberta oil reserves in the Sarnia refinery area to ensure key refined products like diesel, jet fuel, and gasoline are uninterrupted. There is also an opportunity to eventually use this corridor to reach the Atlantic Ocean, which would allow Alberta to provide reliable energy to our nation's European allies. This project will make Canada stronger.
It's just a feasibility study, and noticeably absent was anybody from Manitoba. And so a pipeline to Manitoba, to the western border of Manitoba, and starting again on the eastern border is not much of a pipeline. But again, it's the problem is that we are doing all of these things with taxpayer dollars that don't exist. They are printing another credit card with your name on it, and they are maxing it out. And the affordability of your life is going to deteriorate going forward. And that's because Ottawa's in control, Ottawa's ideologues, that's how they make their decisions. And an independent Alberta can change that. We can elect our officials here in Alberta to make laws and policies affecting us, and not be ruled from a distant master and treated as a colony.
How can people get involved?
Well, we have our new group called Let Alberta Decide. If they can go to letalbertadecide.com, we could sure use some donations. We're going to be looking for volunteers as we expand our campaign going forward. And we're going to be really focusing on the cities because that's where the most opposition to independence is, and we feel that that voter hasn't yet been told the full story. We're going to use traditional campaign techniques as well as new digital ones. And so please go to letalbertadecide.com, letalbertadecide.com for information, updates, events, and to donate if people can.
If you want to support Rebel News and our journalism directly, head to rebelfieldreports.com and leave a donation. As always, stay strong and stay free. For Rebel News, I'm Angelica Toy.